whether I wanted to work or not, if you call it work, I would suddenly get this song coming to me. And I always felt that the best songs were ones that came to you rather than... I do have the ability to, you know, if you ask me to write a song for a movie or something, and they say it's about this, I can sit down and sort of make a song. I wouldn't be thrilled with it, but I can make a song like that. But I find it difficult to do that, but I can do it. You know, I call it craftsmanship, you know. I've had enough years at it to sort of put something together, but I never enjoyed that. I like it to be inspirational from the spirit. And being with Sean and switching off from the business sort of allowed that channel to be free for a bit. You know, it wasn't always on. It was switched off, and when I sort of switched it on again, zap, all this stuff came through. So now we're already, well, we did enough material for the next album, almost half as much, and we're already talking about the third album, so we're full of vim and vigor.
It was very strange. Just when we finished stringing the songs together, then in the next room somebody was saying, quick, quick, come over here because starting over is playing. So we just rushed to that room and we heard it for the first time with that ding, ding, ding. By the way, that's the ding, ding, ding. That's a bell for wishes. And if you make a wish and you hear that ding, 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 and your wish will come true.
I was taking Sean and the nanny and the family to a little, except for Mother, who was here selling cows, in Bermuda to the botanical gardens for lunch, to the Italian restaurant, because I could get espresso and Sean could get some junk food. And I was just walking in, I looked down, and it was a botanical garden, and it said, we're in the office, folks, that's why it's buzzing. It said, Freesia, Double Fantasy. And it was some flowers. And I just thought, Double Fantasy, that's a great title. Because it has so many meanings that you couldn't even begin to think what it means. So it means everything you can think of. I mean, it's a double couple. It's real life, but it's still a fantasy because it's now in plastic and in photograph, and it's fantastic, and it sort of seemed to be perfect for a title of the album. And there's two of us, and it just sort of says it all somehow without really saying anything. It says everything, and it's a flower actually. So he's used to me being around all the time, because it's a pleasure for me to hang around the house. I was always a homebody. I mean, I think a lot of musicians are, you know, you write and you play in the house anyway. Or when I was wanting to be a painter when I was younger, I was all in the house, or write poetry, it was always in the house. But I started the work, you know, and he started seeing a bit less of me. I'd let him come to the studio, but it was a bit boring. He was excited, but long story short, at the end of the session, and it was going on, I got back on a night schedule where I'd be coming in when he'd be getting up. So he'd see me at breakfast, but I was a sort of shredded, okay, what, like that. And then one day we were sort of lying down on the bed together, so I'm maybe watching some cartoon or whatever. And he just sat up and said, you know what I want to be when I grow up? I said, no, what's that? He looked me right in the eye and said, just a daddy. And I thought, I said, you mean you don't like it that I'm working now, right, and going out a lot? He says, right. I said, well, I'll tell you something, Sean. It makes me happy to do the music. I might have more fun with you if I'm happier, right? I was saying to somebody the other day, there's only two artists I've ever worked with for more than one night stand, as it were. That's Paul McCartney and Yoko Ono. I think that's a pretty damn good choice, because in the history of the Beatles, Paul met me the first day I did Bebop-A-Lula live on stage, okay? And a mutual friend brought him to see my group called the Quarrymen. And we met and we talked after the show, and I saw he had talent, and he was playing guitar backstage and doing 20 Flight Rock by Eddie Cochran. And I turned around to him right then on first meeting and said, do you want to join the group? And he said, And I think he said yes the next day, as I recall it. Now, George came through Paul, and Ringo came through George, although, of course, I had a say in where they came from, but the person I actually picked as my partner, who I recognized had talent, and I could get on with, was Paul. 12, or however many years later, I met Yoko. I had the same feeling. It was a different field, but I had the same feeling. So I think as a talent scout, I've done pretty damn well. it was sort of 1966, and I got a call from a guy called John Dunbar, who used to be married to Marian Faithfull. You know, everybody's connected. And he had a gallery in London called Indica Gallery, an art gallery. And I used to go there occasionally to see whatever art show was on, you see. And he said, oh, I've got this, there's this fantastic Japanese girl coming from New York, and she's going to do this other thing, but she's also going to put on an exhibition at my gallery. And it's going to be this big event, something about black bags, and I thought, ooh, orgies, you know. You know, these artists, they're all ravers. You know, it was in the days of happenings and paint and all that stuff, right? So, I go right down there, you know, for the opening, goody, you know, goes down, see what's happening. I get down there, and it's the night before the opening. I thought there was going to be a big party and an opening and the whole bit, you know, I didn't want to get involved, I wanted to watch, you know. I get there, it's all white and quiet, and there's just these strange things all on display, like an apple on a stand for £200, when the pound was worth $8 or something, or whatever. And there's hammers and saying hammer and nail, all this very peculiar stuff, and a ladder with a painting on the sky. Or it looked like a blank canvas on the ceiling with a spyglass hanging from it. So I'm looking around, and there doesn't seem to be many people. There's a couple of people downstairs, and I didn't know who was who. So I get up the ladder, and I look through this spyglass, and it said yes. And I took that as a personal positive message, because most of the avant-garde artists of that period were all negative, you know, like break a piano with an axe. It was mainly male. I'm looking at the female here. It was mainly male art, and it was all destructive and you know. But here was this little crazy message on the ceiling. And then the guy introduced me to her, and she didn't know who the hell I was. She had no idea, you know. She was living in a different environment altogether. And I was saying, well, I thought, well, this is a good con, isn't it? Apples for £200 and hammer and nail. Who's going to buy this, you know? I didn't know what concept art was, which in a nutshell is the idea is more important than the object. So that's why you won't see many rich concept artists around. So anyway, I said, the gallery owner was all fussing around. He was thinking, well, is he going to buy something? And she's ignoring me, you know. So he introduced us, and I said, well, where's the event, you know, where's the happening? Because I'd seen the bag. So she just takes a card out and gives it to me, and just says, breathe. So I said, you mean that? She said, you got it. I said, all right, I'm beginning to catch on here. That was the big event, you know, I mean, all the way from New York for that. So I see the hammer hanging on the thing with a few nails underneath. I said, well, can I at least hammer a nail in? You know, I've come all the way from the suburbs for this. And she says, no.
This before the opening, and I wanted everything to be right, you know.
The thing messed up, you know. So anyway, the gallery owner has a little word with her, and she says, she comes over and she says, all right, no smiling or anything, because you know how she is. She's not running for office. She never was. So she looks at me and she says, you give me 5 shillings. Give me 5 shillings and you can hammer a nail in. So I looked at her and I said, I'll give you an imaginary 5 shillings and hammer an imaginary nail in, okay? And that's when we connected really, and we looked at each other like, you know, that sort of, something went on. Well, I didn't see her again for a few weeks. We went to a Klaus Oldenburg opening, and we were all, I went with Paul, and I don't know who she was with, but I got separated from Paul, and I felt this sort of vibe behind me. And I looked round, and there she was, you know. And we were both very shy, believe it or not, and I don't know what I said. We said something. We didn't really get together till